All right, welcome back to another video. Finally got something that we can tinker with in the garage here. So the Ford Mondeo is gone, and what we have here is a, well, it's an STI key lanyard. Look at that, quick release. This is a 2006 Hawkeye Subaru WRX Impreza. So the build date of this, interestingly enough, is 14 months earlier than the car that we have over the back there, which is your Hawkeye. So essentially we've got two identical WRXs here. Some differences between them. You just pointed out before, there's some things that are better about this, some that are better about the other one, and some that are really similar between the two cars. So I actually stumbled across this car in September of last year, and I actually sent the link to Glenn, and I think your response to me was,
that's a real nice example.
Yeah, you said I should buy it, or are you gonna buy it? And I think at the time I said, nah, I have no need for a new car. And it's quite funny, just sitting over the Christmas period, just browsing TradeMe again, and this came up. So been for sale.
These type of cars is not something you're gonna sit back and go, I'll buy one next month, because they don't come up enough.
No, you've just got to
buy it when it's available, and you know, these cars aren't overly expensive, but they're quite hard to find, and a really nice clean example is even harder to find.
And I mean, I feel like I found the cleanest example that's come up in a long, long time. Like, I'm talking years. I've looked at these cars probably every month, maybe every 2 months on TradeMe, and it is so rare to get one that is low Ks, unmodified, and just in general in good nick, something that's been garaged, the paint's not peeling everywhere. So pretty much what we got here. So this has only got, it's got 105,000 kilometers on it now, that I've just done a 1,000-kilometer road trip in it. It's 2006, the manufacturing date is December of 2005, so one of the really early Hawkeyes where you probably got one of the latter ones. And overall it's in pretty good condition. We'll do a walk around in a minute, but this car's come from Christchurch in New Zealand, so got it here over the weekend. We did about a 650 mile trip up the length of New Zealand, so it was about 1,000 kilometers, and it did it with ease. There's a lot of STI parts on this car and some STI references as well. So for those who have been around on the channel for a while, OG STI, that's the plate that's come off my 2019 Subaru. So it's a placeholder for now. Maybe OG EJ might be the ticket on this, but we've got a STI front splitter. If you come around the side of the car here as well, not a big fan of this. These are definitely going to be coming off, because to me this should only belong on the STI. They didn't actually make an STI version of the wagon in the Hawkeye, so these stickers here need to come off. The wheels are actually V7 STI factory wheels, so you do have kind of another STI part on there. Come back to those shortly. If we wander around the back of the car,
you've got some mud flaps, which...
Oh, we do. These are aftermarket. They're not STI specific.
And there's some front spats, I suppose you call those spats, and there's definitely some rear spats over here as well.
These ones here, yep.
And then we come around the back and you've got some more.
Yeah, we've got the STI Genome catback exhaust. So this again is a factory STI option, catback. I'm actually a big fan of that exhaust after having lived with it for a 1,000-kilometer road trip now. Obviously got the plate on the back here as well. So quite a few STI bits around the car. Previous owner had a lot of interior accessories that were STI as well, so there was a shift knob and just a few bits and pieces. So the majority of those are going to come off the car. The only bit that will be left will be the exhaust, and at this stage the front splitter.
And rightly so. I think this is not an STI, so why put STI parts on it? I think there's if you had an STI, all power to you, go and do that, but you've got to keep this sort of period correct and actually spec prep correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have so much of an issue with putting some STI parts on it, but I think the STI stickers and the labeling, like, it's not an STI, right? It's a bit like buying a V6 Range Rover and swapping out the badge for the SVR. It's not what the car is, right? So that stuff's got to come off. The other bits that are coming off as well, Mighty Car Mods, great channel, it's coming off. Don't want any stickers on here. Same with the wheel is flat. Had a couple of people point this out. Totally get it.
You've got a bit of a little protector bumper sticker there, which is just a bit of vinyl that will just peel off.
Do you know what? I think that yeah, that should come off quite easily. You do have a little bit of a paint fade difference there, but that could just be the fact that this needs.
We should be able to polish that out though.
Yeah, so that will come off as well. So the whole idea is to get all of the stickers off this car, and then I'll kind of assess some of these bits on the side and just work out, if I am to take them off, what's the paint condition underneath and potentially what could go there in space of them. So as I mentioned, what we've got here are V7 STI wheels, and they're actually in really good nick. All 4 of them don't have any curbing at all. We do have some imperfections, I guess rock chips, bits and pieces in them, but there's no significant curbing. Running Pirellis on here, so Dragon Sports. I knew nothing about these tyres until a few days ago. They're decent, they've got a lot of tread left on them. I think if these were worn, I'd be looking at putting Pilot Sports on here.
You're just best to run them for now.
Oh, I think so. There's 6.5 mil of tread.
And then you're going to go to a
corners.
Pilot Sport 5 or something.
Yeah,
Well, what size wheels have you got?
So these are 17s. So I
You
think
need to upsize.
yeah, you're running 225, 45 17s.
Yeah.
And 18 looks good on here. You've got the 18 and lowered
Just
a little bit.
fills that wheel gap a little bit better.
Yep.
And then you probably need to lower it a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, in the time, well, for now, I'm pretty happy with these. You know, the wheels are in good nick, decent tyres, good tread on them, something that doesn't need to be changed immediately. So overall paint condition on the car, I'm really happy with it. Probably the best part here is the hood and then the front bumper as well. They're in really good nick, and I mean, this is low Ks for a car of the age. So with 105,000 K on it, I expected some imperfections, and we do have some. Really kind of the similar bit with your car is the rock chips on the roof here. So you've got a couple here, 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 and they go back probably about a foot onto the roof.
And what sort of happens is you sort of get like a stone that flicks up, and it sort of does a little bit of damage to the clear coat, might you know, put a crack in it or whatever, and then what happens is over time water gets underneath and it sort of bubbles it up. And I can guarantee you that if you peeled a bit of that paint off, I don't know if we can see it that well, but if you peeled a bit of that off, I think you'd find there'd be a rust spot underneath there, and there's another couple just there.
Yeah, and this is very similar to your Hawkeye as well. You do have those spots, and they are oranged a bit. Potentially some touch-up paint on some of these as well, but I mean, that's pretty similar between the two cars and something we'd expect. The overall trim condition, like, pretty happy. This is looking really good.
That's
so
a good sign of a
trim.
car that's been garaged,
yeah,
and probably really well looked after, is how well does the trim weather. I mean, mine's a bit faded on the front of that, but this has been really well looked after. And then when we come over to this door trim, again around the window seals and stuff like that, if that's in nice condition, you've probably got yourself a bit of a bargain.
Yeah, all of these seals are pretty decent. This needs a bit of a polish. These are looking really good. The rails are looking pretty good as well. Interesting bit here is that you do kind of get a bit of a colour difference when this window trim finishes here and then it stretches into this other piece. It's not quite as faded as yours, but again, I think that potentially could be based on less Ks, more garage time, but I think that's definitely something that may need to be replaced in the future. The other thing on here as well is that the windows are quite dark, so it does have a 35% tint on there. That will need to be replaced. I do want a 35% tint on there, but if you have a look at this window and come from the inside, you can see a big scratch across that tint. Yeah, if you come around the back, there's a little bit of bubbling on the tints as well, which is minor. Minor in the sense that we can peel these off, we can go back to Seth at Tint Lab and get this whole car done with decent ceramic tint. And then we come to the interior. So overall, really tidy in here. The previous owner actually had one of the dash mats up covering this here as well. Probably not so necessary. It was garage pretty much all of the time, and there's only been about 5,000 kilometers over the past 5 years put on this car, so it hasn't seen a lot of run time or a lot of daylight. The interior overall is pretty good. I think what needs replacing in here is pretty much all of the interior pieces from here through about here.
And that's just from general wear items, you know, you can see it's getting a little bit beat up. You come down to here, a few scratches. And
same on here, there's some scratches on the trim, scratches here as well. What's going to happen though is I'm going to have to replace, just to get rid of these scratches,
it's all one piece.
This whole section.
That's all one piece.
Is one piece. So what I'm going to do is replace this at the same time. We've got some, I think, probably burn marks on there, which need to be replaced.
And that goes in hand with the burn mark on
the indicator, or sorry, the wiper side.
And that also then goes hand in hand with the burn marks on the seat.
This is the one that gets me. So there's two marks, one here, one here. There's not an awful lot that can be done about those. They're the only two on the interior of the car when it comes into the fabric. But yeah, what's going to happen here is all of this will be replaced. This will be replaced. The glass back here, well, the plastic.
It's pretty scratched
glass,
up.
It's scratched up.
But you found a decent website where we can get all those parts relatively cheap. So it's going to be not that expensive, but I think it will really make this interior, like it'll freshen it up really nicely.
Yeah, I think you're talking about $1,000 to replace everything from here to here and this glass here, which will, as he said, freshen things up quite nicely. And then there's a few other bits. I mean, door cards, really happy with the condition of those. Those
They're
are
all
looking
pretty
good.
clean.
Yeah, nothing needs replacing on those. And then if you come to the back of the car as well, it looks like very little time has been spent in the back seat of this car. It's looking really clean. Door cards again are in good condition. All of the door jambs, the kick plates, everything looks really good back here. And one of the things that I'm pretty stoked about is that we do have rear headrests. We do have kind of all of the factory accessories that you'd expect here. So we've got boot liner, we've got the cargo cover, we've got the rear headrest.
So why this is quite important to people is that I own my car, I think I've had it for 7 years, 8 years, and it's never had headrests in the back. So
No.
never had this, never had this, never had the seatbelt guide, never had that. I keep going to a VTNZ, get a warrant, no problem at all. I take it to a different place and they're like, no, sorry, sir, your car's just failed a warrant. I'm like, why? No headrests. Now, there's some special measurement that they make up that from pillar to here and is classed as like a head banging zone, and so you've got to have headrest. But the funny thing is about headrest, you don't need to have a middle headrest. So middle passenger is all good, apparently. So I've offered Glenn a large sum of money to see if he'd like to sell me those. I do have some in my car, but they're not factory. But the other thing is that these covers here, these like boot covers or Tournier covers, these go for huge sums of money, like $1,000. I've offered him a large sum of money for that, but now that I've seen that, actually I don't want that one because it doesn't quite look factory.
Yeah, you want factory fresh, brand new, right?
This is a Subaru boot liner. They're also large bits of money. I've got one that's been sort of cut from Super Cheap Auto, but I'd be pretty keen to buy this off him. Maybe, you see what I'm saying?
Glenn's also made a cash offer just before for
these things?
These stoppers.
Yep, I had to go to the junkyard to find a pair of those because those is why my boot doesn't close. And also the other thing is the rear seat, the middle seat passenger, what's that called? The middle seat
Seatbelt.
tucks behind with that little hook thing there. Mine's broken, so I'd buy that off you too.
Yeah, you don't have this part here either, do you?
Nah, I want that.
Going.
That's quite, there's like that thing, there's like a little screw that it comes with, so you have to buy the whole kit, and you look like you've got it, so yeah, might go for a bit of burglary tonight.
Now, one of the things that attracted me to this car was the fact that it was pretty much bone stock. Bone stock to the sense that it even came with the original exhaust. So this is the factory exhaust that came on the car before that STI Genome exhaust was put on. And then you know what you're talking about. You've had this car for 7-8 years, so talk us through what we're looking at here.
This is completely factory. There's hella horns put on the front, which is quite funny because you didn't see those in the pictures, but they're there. So bit of a horn upgrade. That seems to be the first sort of mod everyone sort of does, is put those red horns on there. I think they look quite cool. When you open this for the first time, I noticed this.
Yeah.
This is the first sign of someone's put a head unit in there with an amplifier or maybe a sub.
And I pulled out an underfloor sub today, or under seat sub, that wasn't working, so I need to figure that out.
And this is just a fuse. They've just put a fuse in here. They've wired it straight to the battery with the fuse, and I guess it would be like, it'll turn on with like the ignition.
Yeah.
Your head unit will turn on, it will power the sub or the amp or whatever else they've got in there. So that's all right. I mean, you could trace that back. It looks like it's gone through the firewall there, and you could get rid of that. I mean, that's not too bad. Something that's happened with mine is that this is the factory air pump, and so what happens is that for the first like minute or so, when you turn your car on, this air pump basically helps with emissions, exhaust emissions. There's some butterfly valves that sort of open and it deals with the emissions, and then after a minute or so those valves close. Why this is a fault is that these become quite faulty, or what happens is that over time those butterfly valves can stay open or closed, I don't know which way it is around, and it sends an engine code saying there's something wrong with your car. And so mine has had that removed, and they just put a little block off plate here. Obviously if you were to pull your engine, then you can get inside, you can take those valves out, and then they just tune that out. So we don't need that for emissions supposedly, so keep an eye on that, because that
check engine light and we'll pull that out.
That could happen. But otherwise, everything in here is pretty clean, pretty nice. You're probably due a new battery, because what would you about 5 years on this battery?
Yeah, I think it's December 2017, so call it 2018, so we're 6 years on that battery. It'll go at some point. And I mean, this is going to be a daily driver, but Daily driving for me is like maybe 2-3 days of use a week for a total of less than 100 kilometers a week. So I don't know, 5,000K a year. So I think that based on it not doing a lot of long distant driving, that battery could get depleted pretty quickly given it's already
And you've had you had the cam belt done at 98,000. Did they do water pump as well?
They did.
So that's a great combo. Cam belt, water pump, perfect combo. I see you've got the same sort of mongoose alarm that I've got, which is the immobilizer. So we were talking about that. That's obviously a factory part, which I didn't think it was. I thought that was aftermarket. But you have no key for that, so we're going to see if the key that's for mine is the same. But otherwise, everything is pretty bone stock. Actually, what is that? Oh no, that's turbo. Ah, interesting. So that there, mine's got a turbo plate that covers the turbo there in the housing, and you don't have one of those.
It's like a heat shield.
Yeah. And so that's why I just looked at that going, that's interesting, but that's turbo. So mine's got one. Obviously this earlier model didn't come with one and they might have added it or it's been taken off, I'm not sure.
What's interesting here too, you can see straight through to the ground down there.
Oh yeah, because you've got no skid plate.
There's no skid plate. So it's going to be one of the first things that I look to do just to protect that oil pan down there. Get a skid plate on.
But I mean, you could do a real easy oil change.
Oh, I mean, I could, if the front splitter wasn't on here, I could probably reach down. I mean, I can reach down to the oil pan, and I can reach down to the filter as well, and I could probably change the oil without needing to jack
So
it
this
up.
is 2.5 litre?
2.5 litre.
Turbo?
Yep.
So EJ25, New Zealand new?
New Zealand new.
These cars are not quick. I think it's about 175 kilowatts.
169 kilowatt.
So 225 horsepower?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Maybe a few more than that.
What's really nice about these cars is that very low down, so gears 1, 2, 3, it's quite snappy. Like you get on boost really quickly, and that's where the fun zone is. You pull through a little bit, and then at top end, putty.
Oh, I mean, I found that on the 1,000K road trip I've just had to do, fifth gear's got a lot in it for overtaking. I didn't have to change down very often.
Do you think though that this car either needs longer gearing or needs a sixth gear?
Yes, because it sits too high when you're cruising at 105, 110K.
Yeah, so a couple of these roads around here are 110. I noticed that 110 on the highway, you're sitting at 3,000 RPM, 3,500 RPM, and it's just revving too much. I'd like another gear to drop that down to sort of around 2, 2.5, somewhere there.
So pick the car up on Saturday morning, drove it all day Saturday, ferry Saturday night, finished the drive home Sunday, which was yesterday. Got here about 5 o'clock, gave it a wash pretty much immediately, and started making a list last night of some of the things that I want to do or improve or change on this. So in no particular order, I think those interior replacement parts that we talked about, I think that's pretty key for me to just get that dialed in order.
A clean interior makes you enjoy the car so much better. Oh. You could have mud hanging off the back, but if your interior is clean, scratch free, and it smells nice and is comfortable, I think that it helps to improve the driving experience so much more than having a car that's slammed to the ground and looking sexy.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to start with the interior for me because that's where you spend all of your time in the car. Skid plate, like that's pretty high on my priority list as well. I just don't like the idea of having the oil pan down there exposed. So I'm going to have a look at some options for a skid plate, see what I can find. I know there's some really good aftermarket.
You might as well get yourself a Fumoto oil drain valve at the same time.
That's definitely on the list. Make some really easy oil changes. What else do we have on here?
I'll do an oil change as well.
Yeah, so the oil was changed. So I did 1,000, it was changed 200K before that, so it's 1,200K old oil. But I feel like when the Fumoto valve goes on there, hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll do an oil change as well.
You're going to have to anyway.
Fresh. Yeah, I mean, you've got to drain it right, because the plug's coming out. So
yeah, sweet, carry on.
We're going to waste some decent oil. What else? Replace these tints. These tints have got to go. I'll probably leave them on for a little bit. You've got all those scratches, those bubbles in there as well.
See if the Timp Lab will square you away with that.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted. Shift knob, I really want to get into some of the racing accessories. So the plan for this car is just OEM Plus, right? The standard. So really like a racing, I think it's the Strat Rose shift knob, the weighted one. And then also the lug nuts as well. But potentially that's something that can wait until the future when maybe we look at the wheels. Head unit, I've got to get something different in there. I've got to sort that stereo out. So I've got to figure out
go double din?
What's going on here. I think I'll put a CarPlay head unit in there, probably a wireless one if I can track one down. And then I just have to figure out the wiring for everything that's in there and just kind of work through that. Speakers at the same time, you know, it sounds quite tinny in there. It probably needs a sub, and I think the under seat sub is probably the way to go, just so you don't have anything.
Yeah, there's some really good options out there. Pioneer does one.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that's good because you want it to sound good, but you don't want to see it all the time.
Well, I don't want to become that like rattly, like number plate.
Under seat sub would be good.
Yeah.
With
just
it.
hit it away.
I agree with you on that.
And then pair and engine dress up.
Oh, we could maybe do a swap, because I've got a bedroom full of parent engine dress up. I've got a bedroom full of Brembo brakes. I've got a bedroom full of good oil and all the nice juicy bits.
Do you know what? I'm giving you a hard time over the last year for just not putting these parts on the car and just rolling with it. But as I was making my list, I'm like, how nice would it be to buy everything on this list
and jam it in there together?
Everything at the same time rather than little bit.
And then it all gets old at the same time, and it's not like a new bit with an old bit.
So, do you know what? I've given you a hard time. Just like I've given you a hard time about keeping the Ks down for a while, but
well, I'm at 167,000 and you're at 105.
I'm at 105, so I've got a
You'll stay young. You'll stay young way longer.
I don't do an awful lot of driving, so.
But I got the newer model.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that, right? Because it's not like you've got a different generation. We got the same gen. You're just 14 months newer.
We're just going to banter the whole time.
We'll banter back and forth. But
mine's faster. I have no idea.
How's it faster?
I doubt it is.
It's not a fast car.
Do not
buy this car.
It's got motor engine oil in it, so it's quick.
I think, well, yeah, your motor, that adds a couple of kilowatts. Do you know what? I was more excited, and
yours is probably quicker because you've got a catback exhaust, which would have given you 5 extra horsepower.
Yeah.
Because you're running a K&N filter.
Ooh,
so yeah, yours is probably quicker.
Always add some too.
Yours will be quicker.
Oh, we'll take it for a drive shortly and
blow it up.
Give it a go. But do you know what? I'm more excited to own this than I was to own a car 3 times the cost, which was the 2019 STI, because with that car, right, I felt like there were things that I could do to it, but if I wasn't sitting in the interior in that car and I scratched something, it to me was like, not the end of the world, but it was a big deal. Whereas this, all I can see is things I can improve. I'm not scared about breaking things because I know that although it's old, parts are readily available. And I can just tinker on this and improve it. Whereas when you've got the newer model, really all you can do is damage it more. You can pick up more stone chips, you can scratch the interior. So
I agree 100%.
I don't think
this is way more funner.
Yeah.
A car that's sort of, you know,
and it's not
a little bit older, under 20 grand's worth. Just, there's no, like, you know, the house is not on the line if this thing blows up.
That's the thing. You know, this engine goes, well, it's not the end of the world.
Well, we'll just get a new one. And this stuff is all accessible in the engine bay. You can YouTube it. You don't need any fancy keys or anything like that to try and open it up. You can just get in there and have a bit of fun with it. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
That is so much funner than having a car that's like exactly like you say.
Just something that you're stressed out about or worried at damaging, or you pick up a stone chip and it's like, not again. You know, I pick up a stone chip in this and it's like, oh, okay, well, that just adds a bit more character to it. You know, it's almost 20 years old. So you're going to see a lot of this car in the channel. Obviously, we just talked through some of those initial changes that we want to make. We'll just bring you along the journey. First step with this, get some of these stickers off here, get it tidied up a bit. Really want to get that interior clean and just kind of assess where I'm at. As I said, I've already started making a list. I'm sure that list will grow, and I'm sure as I start ordering bits on there, Glenn will go, oh, can you just make that too, please? Because we'll just start collecting and trying to get these looking like the hopefully the nicest Hawkeye examples in the country. I think that pretty unique that we've got 2 that are blue as well. Thank you for watching. We'll look forward to bringing you along the journey as we continue to improve this and that. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.